Alright guys, in this video I'm going to show you guys how to finish off this color wheel and add that second page to it that has all those rows of gradients that we're going to be adding to finish off this assignment. So these are the 9 steps. First thing I want you to do is save your swatch library. Okay, if you've gone through the first 3 PDFs, what you should have when you open up your swatches is something that looks similar to this. You got your primary folder along with the 2 different types of tints and 1 type of shade for each one. Same thing for the secondaries as well as the tertiary colors. Okay. In order to save this swatch library, click right over here at this drop down window. Go to the second to last option which says Save Swatch Library as ASC. This window is going to pop up for you. And then name it a custom name. What I think makes sense is just your first and last name, color wheel, or swatches. Keep it in this default directory over here, and just click Save. This window is going to pop up. You just got to click OK. Now, when you open up a new document, new Illustrator document, these are the default swatches that show up, right? What you can do instead is click over here on the drop down, go to Open Swatch Library, down to User Defined, and you're going to be able to find your custom swatches that you saved, and it'll pop out as a separate window, and all these swatches that you put hard work into creating is going to show up for you. So that's how you're going to be able to access it from that point on. So that covers number 1 for us. In order to get into the second or the last part of this color wheel exercise, where you want to create a new artboard, the way you do that is you click on Document Setup over here, click Edit Artboard, and then look for these green smart guides that pop up. You just want to align it, okay, top and bottom, so that it's the same height as your original artboard. And then over here, under width over here, you want to specify 8.5 for 8.5 inches. You can click out to another tool to click out of that, and then you should have a letter-sized artboard right over there. Next, let's create your text labels. I'm just going to click and drag the same text that I used over here while holding Alt to duplicate that. And let's align this to the left. I'm going to increase the size of the text box over here. We're going to be making 4 rows. Primary, monochromatic. Just leave it at that. I'm going to click and drag this while holding Shift and Alt in order to duplicate it. The second row is where we're going to make the secondary monochromatic gradients, and the third row is where we're going to be making the tertiary monochromatics. The fourth one is where we have the analogous gradients. Okay, so you want to space these out on your artboard, roughly equally spaced from each other. And those are those are text labels. Next, let's create 12 star shapes. Okay, 3 for each row. So click on your star shape. If you don't see it, it should be under the rectangle tool if you long click over here, or it might be on the ellipse tool. It's commonly there, but it's all in the same area right here. So click on Start tool, click once on your artboard, and over here for radius 1, type in 2, radius 2, type in 1.5, and for the points, type in 8. You should end up with this. For now, whatever black fill or color fill that it's got, just keep it like that. You can shrink this down. Okay. Align it over here for the top row. Get it to the size you want. You can click and drag it while holding Shift and Alt to duplicate that. And then over here, to make these nicely spaced, you could select all three of these and distribute, let's see, which one is it? Not align. Vertical distribute. No, I think it's horizontal distribute center. If you don't see this in your control panel, you could pop it out in your align toolbox. Okay. So once you have these three nicely distributed, you can click and drag them while holding Shift and Alt in order to copy them down into 4 rows like that. You might want to shift up and kind of align your text boxes accordingly. So we've created our 12 star shapes that we're going to fill in with some gradients. Next step over here, step number 5, is for you to undock the swatch tool palette as a separate window. So click on your swatch toolbox, and by clicking and dragging the tab that says swatches where my mouse is, by clicking and dragging it, you can undock it and it'll show up as a separate window. We want to do this so that you can see it at the same time as when the gradient tool palette is popped out, which is the next step, number 6. Click on the gradient palette and it'll pop up. Obviously you can click on the swatch palette to move it underneath. You want to be able to see both of these at the same time. Okay. Number 7 is where we actually start to create the gradient. So firstly, select one of the star shapes and apply the default radial gradient to it. It's going to be by default just black and white like this. Okay. In order to create, to use the palette, number 7 over here, you want to click and drag colors from the swatches into the gradient tool palette, particularly at these color pickers right over here. So for this first row, we're going to be creating 3 primary monochromatic gradients. What that means is a tint, tone, or shade of the 3 primary colors, which is yellow, magenta, and cyan. So this first one, let's make it yellow. I'm going to start with my primary yellow. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag that right over here from the swatch into this color picker. And if once you let go, you'll notice that the color changes. On the right side, okay, it's still black, so we want to pick one of the tints or shades that you set up for yellow, and you're going to be able to find it right under that original full yellow. Okay, so this one is the 10% tint, this one is the 30% tint, and this one is the 10% shade. Let's try out the shade, see what that looks like. I'm going to click and drag the shade into the black, and it really doesn't look very different for me. Okay, so instead of that one, I'm going to try out the 10% tint. Okay, much more difference there. However, I think I want to reverse this relationship where the slightly more noticeable yellow, I want to push it out to the outside. So with your star selected, you can click on this button to reverse the gradient. Now that's looking a little better for me, where it's nearly white on the inside, that's a 10% tint, and it's full yellow on the outside. Okay, you can also try to experiment over here. Maybe I'll try the shade of yellow, and it's not looking so great. I think I like the original better. And it's as simple as making sure the shape is selected, and then clicking and dragging new swatches into these color pickers. Okay, so you want to use that same technique to apply gradients and change the colors up for the remaining 2. All right, so with this selected, I'm going to apply it. Oops, before I click and drag anything, I need to first apply a gradient, I mean. And then I'm going to switch up the colors for this one to be a monochromatic gradient in magenta. That's looking pretty good for me. And then with this third one selected, apply the normal gradient. And then let's switch it up to the cyan. Okay, not a whole lot of difference at all between the shade and the original color. Maybe I'll try the shade and the 10% tint. Kind of reverse that relationship. That looks a little better for me. So that's the first row, the primary monochromatics. Secondary monochromatic, you're going to use the same kind of the work process. First apply a radial gradient, and then for these guys, you want to be grabbing colors from your secondary palette. So we're starting with orange, and then the second color wants to be one of the tints, tones, or shades that you created in orange. Okay, and you can experiment with whichever one seems to look the best to you. So orange, we're going with violet right now. Here's the pure color of violet, the tint of violet. Let's try the 30% tint. Yeah, I do like there being a little more contrast rather than too little. And then the third secondary color, that's going to be green for us. So green in the middle. Yeah. The third row is the tertiary monochromatics. We have 6 tertiary colors: yellow, orange, red, orange, and so on. You want to choose the 3, whichever 3, to apply a gradient to here. Same technique. Start out with the default gradient. In my case, I'm going to go with the blue violet. Oops. So I just made a mistake there. I clicked and dragged it into the shape instead of into the gradient palette. So let's start over there. I applied a radial gradient, and then I'm going to click and drag the blue violet in here, and the tint of blue violet right there. One thing you can manipulate, this is just review, you can manipulate the positioning of this diamond on the upper side of the gradient to dictate how far and how far the left color spreads out versus the color on the right side. Okay, so that's something you might want to play with. And then you just go do the same thing with your other choices in tertiary colors. I am partial to this kind of turquoise blue-green. Maybe I'll flip that relationship. Okay, and for here, let's go with the red-orange. So now we're done with all of our monochromatics, from primary, secondary, to tertiary. The third row is our analogous gradients. So in order to do this, I have a recommended workflow. That's number 8 right here over here. You want to duplicate sets of analogous colors to help with creating those gradients. What I mean by that is we're going to be creating 3 color gradients in analogous color schemes. So you want to choose any 3 pie shapes that you find visually appealing and harmonious, right? And to select them together, I clicked this yellow green over here. While holding shift, I clicked the green, and then still holding shift, I clicked the blue green. Click and drag this while holding Alt now to copy it over here. Okay. This is going to help us out to locate where these specific colors are in the swatch palette. So to start with, click your initial star, apply a radial gradient. Okay, now these are the 3 colors I want to use, right? So let's say starting from the middle, I'm going to start with the yellow-green. If you click on the yellow-green pie shape, you'll see that same swatch highlighted over here. Same thing if you click on the green, you'll see exactly where it's highlighted in the swatch palette. And you'll notice they're not exactly right below or next to each other like we were doing with the monochromatics. So these pie shapes are here for you to click onto to make it easier for you to locate where they are in the swatch palette. So I'm going to click on the yellow green first. Now that I see it over here, I can keep my eye there. With my peripheral vision, I'm going to click onto this star and then click and drag the yellow green into that first color picker. Okay. Now I'm going to click on the green. I notice that the swatch is over here. I'm going to keep both my eyes there. With my peripheral vision, I can click on the star, and then I can click and drag the green into the middle of the gradient now, and that's going to add a new color right in the middle. Same process for the blue-green. I'm going to click on the pie. It shows me where that is right here. I'm going to keep my eyes there with my peripheral vision. I'm going to click on the star and click and drag right over there. So there I have an analogous gradient right over here. And from there, I could kind of play around with perhaps, let's say, I want to make the outside a little lighter. So I'm going to grab the tint. Oops. So a mistake I made there was I didn't have the star selected. Okay, so for the last color on the outermost side, I want to lighten it up by using the tint of that color. Okay, that was a 10% tint. Here's a 30% tint. I think I like the 10% a little better. It's closer to, yeah, gives it a nice halo effect in the middle. Okay, and once you're done with these pie shapes, you can delete them. So you can go through that same process, choosing 3 pie shapes that are adjacent to each other by holding Shift, clicking and dragging it while holding Alt, so that you have a good way of locating where these specific colors are at in the swatch panel. So let's run through this one. I'm just going to apply a gradient to it, and it's going to apply the most recent one. I'm clicking on here for the magenta. That's right there. With my peripheral vision, I'm going to click on the original star, or the one I'm modifying. I'm going to click and drag the magenta into the color picker. Click on the red violet right here. That's right there in the swatch panel. With my peripheral vision, click on the star, click and drag the red violet into the middle color. And then let's go with the violet. That's right over here. With my peripheral vision, I'm going to click on the star. And then over here, let's try the 30% tint. And again, I'm curious what this looks like reversed. Yeah, I think I like that a little better. Same sort of process with the third star. I think I want to include something in the warmer kind of yellow range. So let's go with this one. Click on the yellow pie. That's over there. Oh, firstly, before I do that, you want to apply a gradient to the star that you're modifying. The yellow's over here, so click the star, click and drag the yellow. This yellow-orange is way down over here. Click on the star, click and drag the yellow-orange. That actually looks nice by itself, but to kind of follow the rules about the analogous colors, I'm going to change it up anyhow. So this should be just straight orange. And then for that one, I think I want to grab the lighter tint of it. Yeah, that's pretty interesting there too. You can delete these, and then there you have it. That's the that's how you create this whole array of gradients and star shapes. Okay. Last step over here is to print everything you've worked on up to this point as a PDF. Okay. So in my case, let's see. I'm just going to get rid of this. What you should have is 2 artboards just like this that are the same size, letter sized. You want to go up to File, Print, and then in Printer, specify Adobe PDF. For media size, specify Custom. Okay. And over here in this window, you can verify that there's 2 pages that are going to be printed out. Press print. And then you want to name this with the naming convention that's specified over here. So first letter of your first name, your full last name, underscore, color wheel, underscore, and your period. Okay. You want to save this to a location where you're going to remember it. And then that PDF that gets created, it should look something like this. And this is what you submit into the assignment. Okay? All right, guys. Hope that helps you guys. Good luck.